I'd like to call to order the regular meeting agenda and hybrid meeting for April 12th, 2023, 6 p.m. Zoning Board of Appeals. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
In progress.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we have a continued public hearing for 22/23-19 Jeffrey Roy, which is 105 Middletown Ave. Then for public hearings, we have 22/23-23 Andrea and Lisa Stanford at 94 Fenwood Drive. And finally, we have 22/23-24C Leo K and Elizabeth C. Lavinia. And that is for 6 Uncas Road. We'd like to start with 22/23-19 Jeff Roy. Before I read this, is their attorney also on?
Yep,
She's on?
I am going to.
Sylvia?
Her.
Okay. 22/23-19 Jeff Roy requests a variance of par 9, definition of deck/deck shall extend from building/roof decking above second story proposed. Par 10.8.2/10.8.3 non-conforming lot/no changes allowed, changes proposed. Par 24.5.1 street line setback/25 feet required /15.1 foot proposed. Par 24.5.3 other yard setbacks, 15 foot required /5 foot proposed to north and 11 foot to south. And par 24.6.2 structural coverage 20% allowed /20.9 proposed of the zoning regulations to permit the construction of a 1,308 square foot home, 136.8 square foot first floor deck, 98.8 second story deck and roof deck at 105 Middletown Ave, map 13/lot 117, residence A zone, coastal area management zone. Action. Closed public hearing, applicant granted 29 of 65 days to 4/12/23.
Can you seat someone for Jackie?
Oh, I'm sorry. Seated for Jackie. Okay, seated this evening will be Kevin Danby, Alfred Wilcock, Erin Caldwell, Matt Diamond, and myself. Jackie Prast is absent this evening. Do we have?
Yes, she's on. Sylvia.
And where is Joe Wren? Do we need Joe Wren?
Joe's here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. It's who will be speaking. Right now, we're in public comment. So I'm going to bring us back to public comment now, okay?
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, since there's been some time, if you recall, we started back in February and it got continued to March, and then in April, in March, there was only 4 members and we electively continued to April to get 5 voting members. So one thing I think we just want to make sure that everybody who is seated did listen to tapes and is aware of those previous meetings.
I have confirmed that everybody that is seated this evening has been there and has listened to the tapes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And just because there's some time has passed in between and some things have materialized with the application, I would just like to have Sylvia, the applicant's attorney, give you a very brief up to date where we are right now status, and then proceed from there.
I don't, Mike, is that a problem?
Not a problem.
No, okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'll apologize at first. I have some allergies, and if I get a little cough going, I'll try to keep it to myself. So I apologize for that in advance. As Joe mentioned, this is our third time before you. The first time was continued to allow the neighbors to comment, and the second time because there was only 4 members. So we're here before you today. Before I give a general summary of the application, I do want to make an amendment. We would like to make an amendment to the application. We are withdrawing the request for variance of PAR 9, the definition of deck. That portion is being withdrawn from our application. Okay, so the remainder of the application that you've got before you today is, as Joe has summarized in the hardship application portion, is a very modest house with a very modest lot, narrow width of about 35 feet. Less than 10% of the property is actually buildable or outside of the setbacks. We are in conjunction with this application, eliminating the nonconformity with respect to the shed. The shed will be fully conforming. We are reducing nonconformities with regard to the front, the street side, and both side yards, as well as reducing the coverage. And in exchange, we are obviously making the property FEMA compliant and more compliant with all other zoning regulations and local health regulations and local flood regulations as well. We believe that this house is very consistent with and in harmony with the comprehensive plan and the neighborhood around it. And I think we've probably said enough in the last application. It's a relatively straightforward application. This house is actually going to be a bit smaller as a result of it, but we're trying to do our best to reduce as many of the nonconformities as are possible.
I have only one question. So since you're no longer dealing with the PAR 9, does that mean we are no longer dealing with a roof deck?
Yes, that is correct. And we are prepared as a condition of any decision that we would be revising the plans to show the removal of the deck as well as the spiral staircase up to the deck.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to confirm on that. Excellent. With that, I'd like to open it. It was in public comment. We're now in public comment. Who in the public would like to speak? For or against?
I was Mr. Chairman, if no one else.
I believe.
I seated myself, thank you.
State your name.
Thank you. Attorney Robert Rimmer, 191 Main Street. I'm here on behalf of a neighbor, Jeffrey Dooley, at 103 Middletown Avenue, Saybrook. So.
Can you spell his name?
Dooley. Thank you. Okay, so with regard to the front street setback from Middletown Avenue, as stated, 25 feet is required. The proposal is to move it 15.1 feet. There were 2 sets of plans, an early set from the surveyor and one from Indigo. The survey plan states that right now it's 15 feet from Middletown Avenue. Indigo states is 13.4 feet. Right now from Middletown Avenue, both would be very de minimis movements back, but it's extraordinarily de minimis if you're going to go by the surveyor's plans. So in order to, the reason apparently they can't get the full 25 feet is if you look at the westerly side. I don't know, folks have their maps out, sketches here from Indigo. I'm looking at the Indigo sketch. Apparently the reason they can't move the full 25 feet back is for 2 reasons. One, because of some septic tank being moved and rotated right now. I'm not sure if that's happened already, but there's a proposal to do it, which should actually bring it closer to the proposed house. And then decking and stairs on the western edge of the house that would preclude it from getting 25 feet back. So that is part of our argument, is that that's not a hardship because they want more decking and more steps. They could get 25 feet back without the decking and steps. That's their choice. Sure, it's going to be beautiful. Sure, it's going to be nice, but it's not a hardship. In order, and I'll get to this again in a second. The law, we hear it a lot about reducing a nonconformity. Reducing a nonconformity may take the place of a hardship, where there is no hardship, like we're not required to approve an application solely on the basis of reducing a non-conformity. The law does not say that. So then, again, to the steps and the deck, particularly on the north setback side, which is my client's property, Dooley, 103 Middletown Avenue. 15 feet is required. Right now, it's at either 3 or 4.9 feet, depending upon the angle of the house. And the proposal is to move it to 5 feet back. The argument here is that due to the extension of the steps and the deck on the western edge of the house, that is sort of a volume increase in the non-conformity. So even if you take into account slightly moving it back, there's a volume increase because the structure through the deck and the steps is further moved towards the western edge. So there's no reduction in non-conformity. There's probably actually an increase due to the horizontal expansion that way. And I understand that, you know, the house is becoming FEMA compliant, which is a laudable goal. But to the extent that it's raised, and it's within the 15 feet, which it is, and I understand this is a narrow lot, but it's only 5 feet away, and that expansion should be, the expansion upward, that vertical expansion should be taken into account too, in terms of increasing the non-conformity. And not just taking a look at, well, you were 3 feet away, or maybe 4.9 feet away. Now you're 5 feet away. There's a more robust, there should be a more robust review than that, given the vertical expansion and the expansion towards the west with the steps and the deck. I gotta say, I'm a little unclear on exactly how much of a height increase there is. On the Indigo plans, it says less than 35 feet presently. The survey plans say at or about 24 feet. So that's a big difference. And obviously anything under 35 feet is okay.
That's correct.
That's correct. So I'm not making an argument that it's somehow in violation of that rule. It's just a question of the expansion of the nonconformity upward. Mostly we're relying on the expansion of the nonconformity in a horizontal way, as I said, toward the westerly line.
FEMA requires, if the property is raised, which it will be, or they break the 50% rule, that it has to be elevated. So, and we elevated +2. So what would happen is, so now we have the structure coming up, okay? So obviously, we need some type of a deck off the back of the house, because he is now elevated at least 12 feet into the air, or whatever the height might be. Yeah, sea level. So, and they have, by orientation of the building, they've made it more conforming to the lot. They've reduced some of the nonconformity. Keep in mind that the driveway on that side is also a passageway with a right of way for other people to get into the back. So the property can't be shifted. And they have the right to build up on the location that they razzed for FEMA. There's no requirement to go back 25 feet. And if we were to go back 25 feet, then you start having all this overhangs and other equipment, which would be almost on top of the septic system because of the size of the lot.
Okay.
So you're kind of limited as to what you can actually do here.
So a couple of things, if I may, and then I'll leave you to your own
Sure.
devices. One is just because you become FEMA compliant doesn't mean you can therefore become not in conflict with other sections of the zoning regs. There are two primary cases leading this. One was cited by Attorney Rutkowska last time. That's the Mayor Williamson case, Stanford 233-624. There's also a more recent one from the Connecticut Appellate Court 2020 versus the DBA of Milford.
What's the site?
I'm sorry, 196 Con Ave, Connecticut Appellate Court, 196 Con Ave, 122. Both were houses in non-conforming lots, both destroyed by Sandy, one in Stanford, one in Milford. Both had the FEMA 50% rule. With the prior case, the Mayor Williamson case versus Stanford, the house could not be raised without violating the height rule. It's not possible to comply with both the height rule in the town and with the necessity to raise it for FEMA. Therefore, ultimately, by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, the answer is grant the variance. Okay. The Turek versus Milford case was different because it was not necessary to. There was a question again about the height of the house. So the house was raised on a non-conforming lot, but they had a total of 4 stories. So they didn't need 4, they wanted 4 stories, they didn't need 4 stories. So they could meet, they could meet the regulations and they could meet the FEMA requirements, you know, without having their dream home, so to speak. Ultimately, the answer in that case is variance denied. Point being, it's not, none of this is really contingent necessarily on FEMA in and of itself. It's a question of what can you do within the requirements after you comply with FEMA. Now, in this case, I'm going to rely mostly on the decks and steps to the west and the septic that they placed there themselves, that would otherwise be allowed to move the extra 10 feet from Middletown Avenue. Now, before I forget, let me say one other thing about, there was a comment, Mr. Chairman, about the right of way. I think that's marked certainly on, maybe marked on both sets of plans, but certainly marked on the plans by Indigo. So there's certainly a right of way for access there, but in addition to that, I don't think it's marked here. In addition to that, the deed says a couple of other things. It says and this benefits the property at 115 Middletown Avenue, which is owned by Troiano. In addition to the right of way for access, that lot has a right to park up to 2 motor vehicles on the right of way or on a portion of the lot. And that's the Roy lot we're looking at. Could be anywhere on the lot, up to 2 cars. We just run through the land, by the way. It says that in the deed. And then the other thing, it gives a right to use, maintain, repair, and replace the existing clothesline area located on the rear of lot 165. That's not depicted on here, but it's going to be somewhere. The rear is going to be on that existing shed western edge of the lot. Just so you're aware of that, it's more than the right of way. I'm not sure, and this hasn't been depicted where these cars can be parked and where that clothesline area would exist. I'll skip my deck comments. I think our argument is that it's possible for the house to come within FEMA compliance and to comply with the requirement to move the 25 feet back from Middletown Avenue. And we argue that the extension of the steps and deck on the western side actually increased the nonconformity. I just want to make sure I've said this in case I didn't. The law is clear in this state that you can't trade a nonconformity for a conformity. Okay, so if you're happy that they're becoming FEMA compliant, which I know we all are, that doesn't mean you can say, in consequence of that, we're going to therefore allow a nonconformity.
Now, you know that we have to allow steps to get up to the porch where the mechanicals have to be, because no mechanicals can be on the first floor.
Right.
And you know, we have to have the ability for power to be brought up to that property, and then for the services to be able to be accessed by the utility company.
Well, you'll have to decide if these.
I just want you to be aware of that.
Right, and you'll have to decide if you think that their extended deck and steps are completely necessary for that, taking into account their septic, or if that's something that they're extending out further than necessary. You'll have to make that decision. You've heard my argument.
I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the situation.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes,
You know, we've got a very small lot here with an existing house. We can't tell them they can do nothing with this lot.
right.
If you look at the plan that you're referring to, the building envelope is 25 feet by, at least I can't see a side, but I mean, whatever it is,
25 feet by.
25 by 80, whatever it might be. I mean, there's never going to be a structure that we're going to be able to live in.
Building envelope isn't even 25 feet.
No, the building envelope is 25 feet. It's 20
It's
feet.
25 by, whatever, but regardless.
Yeah, I know.
You see what I'm,
I do, you're right.
okay?
It's extremely
So-
small.
Right, so we're taking this and I'm having a hard time understanding your argument where the only side, the side that's made more compliant is where your client is.
Yeah.
So what's the problem?
It's not more compliant because it's being extended out. The non-conformity is being expanded because of the reach of the steps and deck on a horizontal basis.
Well, like the chairman said, if you look at the drawing,
Right.
you see utilities there, whatever it might be. HVAC, a generator, I'm not sure what that is,
Right.
but you have to be able to get up here. You can't, shimmy up a rope.
Yeah, and
So what do you suggest?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is the reason it can't go further, and they're still moving according to this sketch here, they're still moving the septic tank even closer to the house, which makes it more difficult to comply with, or putting you in a box to go along with this, because there's no other answer when there are other answers. The other thing I want to say is, this is down by the water. These are small lots. These predate zoning, okay? The lots of cases in Connecticut. I'm not gonna cite all of them for you, but I'll cite a couple.
Could I, before you do that, could I just ask? So, just so that I know what the actual ask that you would be happy with,
Right.
or your clients would be happy with. It seems, just so I understand, I'm thinking that what they would like is for this box to move this way.
Right.
To kind of pick up like Tetris and go over here
Yeah,
like that.
right.
Just so I understand, because I didn't necessarily hear that.
9 feet.
Let me comment
9
on
feet,
Right.
okay.
moving the septic tank 90 degrees. Okay, by your testimony, you have to have a place for 2 cars to park back there.
Hold on, they moved it, not me. They're proposing to move it
Right.
closer to the house. And I don't, this in the deed said the cars. could park there.
Hear me out. Hear me out. They're taking it, which is, the tank actually runs north to south,
Yeah,
and they want to make it east and west.
correct.
By your testimony, the neighbors have a right to park up to 2 cars on this property. Okay? They're not gonna want them where these septic, the leach fields are that are depicted on this map. They're not gonna want them sitting on there. I mean, so they're fulfilling another obligation.
Perhaps it's not marked on here.
Well, I know, but
couldn't
where else would they
comment on
put them?
What else did they put it? Right.
that. I couldn't comment on that.
Yep.
So I can't comment based on the sketch where the cars would park, because again, it says they could park on the right of way or anywhere on the lot. I just want to,
But again, you wouldn't want them parking on the septic fields.
No,
well, again, that's something, that's not really, I'm bringing this to your attention, because I don't think it was in any application material, but that's not really gonna be a ZBA issue. If the deed that runs with the land is being violated, that's not something the ZBA is going to decide or deal with, either tonight or any other time. That'll be something that the neighbors or.
But like you said, it runs with the property.
Runs
The
with the
company has
property.
an obligation,
Right.
and don't we have an obligation to try to make all the pieces of the puzzle work on a small lot the best that you can?
right.
In the fact that your client is is the one who benefits, it may not be a lot, but benefits the most on the sideline?
Right.
Well, I'm not doing a good job of explaining what I'm trying to say, because we don't benefit. We're getting more encroachment because of the extension east to west of the house. Okay, it's moved back a foot. You're like, great, wonderful, but then it's extended out 10 feet, which expands the non-conformity.
But that's to get into the house and put the,
Right,
put the utilities on.
right,
So tell me, give me a solution.
yeah.
Give me something I can hang my hat on.
I move it back 10 feet.
You
can
can't,
make it more.
you can't.
Okay, so, well, then maybe it can't be allowed because, you know, part of what you're saying to me is that, well, this is such a small lot. This is a very small lot. It's down in the beach community. You're gonna have a very difficult time finding any conforming lots down there, okay? Now, there's law of the state of Connecticut. I'm not gonna read you all the cases, but a hardship is not unusual or unique if there are many other non-conforming lots in the area subject to the same zoning restrictions as the applicant. That's exactly what we got there. Judge Fuller in his treatise says the existence of similar lots may make it difficult or impossible to prove unusual or unique hardship. That's the, you know, you guys are gonna make the decision. I'm telling you that, just because they're dreaming it doesn't have to make it so.
Now, you do realize they could have, they didn't do it, but they could have said, we're just gonna raise the house. They could have raised the house up. Then they could have added steps, 2 sets of staircases, anywhere they wanted out there. And that would have, and FEMA would have said, and that would not count as coverage. And then they would still need a deck to put their mechanicals on. So just so you understand that, by razzing the building and bringing it down, okay, they now don't have the ability to add steps that would go towards coverage. Because of the fact that they're tearing it completely down and building it up, but they have the right to build on that same location.
Okay, well, listen, if that's your decision, so be it.
Okay.
Well, you can have your vote. I'm saying it's increasing the non-conformity. And you'll have to take that into account when you make your decision.
Okay.
Well, in other places, it's reducing the non-conformity.
And again, the law, I've read the law to you. I can do it again if you like. The law does not allow you to trade a non-conformity for a conformity.
Well, but again, this guy isn't asking, he's got a problem with FEMA. He's got to respect their regulations.
Right.
What is he gonna do?
Will not increase the non-conformities. Okay, and you asked me.
We're reducing non-conformities from what I can see.
Correct.
Because you're telling me he's gotta have a deck back here for utilities and a small staircase to get into the house.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
the third floor deck
It's
and the
done.
spiral staircase, that's all gone.
It's going.
I could understand what you're saying, so you're not convincing, you're not very convincing that, I mean, when you look at this, you can see that your client benefits more than anybody. On the other side of the house, there's nothing there, it's all driveway.
Right. And
And by your testimony.
Yeah.
The 2 cars for the neighbor that, like you said, runs with the land, they have to put them somewhere. They're changing the tank by 90 degrees, so there's room to park a couple of cars.
Is that the
Regardless of whose cars they are.
Right.
They're there because you naturally wouldn't want anybody, parking on top of a septic field.
I don't know that that's the reason, or they would have marked that as parking area.
and the mechanicals have to be able to be serviced from on that platform.
Right.
So the platform can't be the same size as those.
Well, when you folks are having your deliberations, just
Yeah.
keep in mind on some of these things you're saying, the septic tank, they're proposing to move the septic tank further to the east right now. Okay, so you can take that into account as to whether you think they're trying to be compliant or not. Also, in terms of the car that I brought up, it's not on their sketches, it's not part of their presentation. They've not marked this. If we're imagining that they're gonna park cars here or there, I don't know about that. But that's something that's gonna have to be taken into account as well.
Okay.
By your testimony, the neighbors have a right to park 2 in the right of way and 2 on their yard.
No,
Two
Two
total.
total.
Right.
In the right of way or anywhere on the lot, and there's that clothesline area that may have
Oh,
already.
aren't there 2 houses, that have access here?
Only one of them is benefited by the,
Right away.
by the right of way and the deed language, the deed restriction I'm discussing, number 115.
Okay, based on that, is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against this application? Do we have anybody out there? Any hands waving for or against?
Before you close it?
Yeah, I'm not gonna close it yet. I just wanna make sure. Mike,
Oh,
hang on.
Jeff,
Hello, Jeff? Did he want to speak?
Jeff, go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you for all of you for your time. The one thing that has always been a little bit of a problem is, and this is me, not an attorney, the shed was never supposed to be there. It's not permitted. It's on my property. I got told for years that this was not on my property. You're basically saying you can move it 2 feet away from my property. The shed shouldn't be there. Take the shed out and move the septic system back where it belongs. Or let them park back there. He doesn't need another shed. He's got a new garage underneath his house.
Who's speaking?
Why does he need a shed? It's going to be, you can't put anything mechanical in it because it's going to get flooded. So everything can move into the garage now. The shed doesn't need to be there. It's not been permitted. It's on my property. You're saying we don't have a solution. There is a solution. There's space to do something.
Who is speaking? State your
I'm
name.
sorry, this is
your
Jeff.
address.
I'm sorry, Jeff Dooley, 103 Middletown Avenue. There is a solution. Take the illegal shed out. Figure out how you can fit it in there.
He has a right to have a shed. In fact, anything under 120 square feet, they don't even need it permitted anymore. It just needs to be 2 feet off the property line,
Up to 120.
up to 120 square feet. So the shed, as long as it gets reorientated within the 2 feet of the property line, he can have it.
I didn't say he can or can't have it. I'm not saying that at all. He can do whatever he wants. He has done whatever he wants. But you're saying there's no space for them to move it back. There is. The shed can be removed.
We're not gonna ask him to move the shed. We're not gonna ask him to move the septic system and do all that. But it's not a reasonable act.
Well, he's already moving. He's moving the shed anyway. You've already asked him. That's part of what you're saying. It's okay. He's moving. Why are you looking like that? This is very, very condescending.
He's moving the shed to make it compliant. It's supposed to be 2 feet off the property line.
Right, so he's moving it already. You're saying you're not demanding. No one's demanding. But if he needs some more space.
I don't understand your point.
My point is the lot is very small. Can we agree on that?
The lot
He's
is-
creating space underneath his house to put anything you need in that you would put in a little shed because he now has a garage. You're saying we can't do this. We got to leave that there. You don't have to leave it there. That's more space for him to put more stuff that he needs to be compliant.
I don't think you understand that his shed under 120 square feet, as long as it's 2 feet off the property line, is not even considered of coverage. Do you understand?
I do understand that, but that gives him some more space in the back.
He wants. As long as
I'm
it's
not
2 feet
saying
off
he can't do what he wants. I'm just saying, we're saying that he doesn't have any room to do things. He doesn't have a shed there, he can park cars back there. He can move stuff. I'm just saying that's a solution to the problem that we seem to be having. Not demanding him to do anything. He can do what he wants. But we're saying, what do we do? What's the solution? What's an opportunity? I hear other people say that. I know I don't feel like I'm being listened to, but that's beside the point. I hope the other people on the board are listening, and I appreciate your time, guys. I really do.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Mike, would you care to comment? Would you care to comment on anything that we've discussed today prior to closing a public comment? Since we no longer are going to be discussing the deck on the roof, that's gone.
Wait, yeah, my comment on that is that if you put a condition, if you put a condition on any approval, that the plans be modified to show the change in the deck area. The plans become and remain part of the application.
Right, and I agree with that. I guess my question is, do we, is, the applicant, Sylvia, do
Yes,
we
sir.
want to give the applicant the opportunity to correct the drawing so that the neighbors can see exactly what's going to be built? If they, because now they have the opportunity to change the roof line because they're no longer going to be putting a deck on top. We could continue it for one more month. If that would be our max before we run out of time. And this would give them the opportunity to provide drawings to the public of what the final product is going to look like. It's,
Joe
I
would
don't
like,
think- I
Joe,
don't-
your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's necessary, Mr. Chairman. We are happy to condition any granting of the approval on revised plans that are consistent with the withdrawal of the roof deck and the spiral staircase, but we don't believe that that's necessary. Joe Wren does have a couple of factual things to
Sure.
clarify, and we do have a couple of additional letters of support as well. I just want to make sure we get that into the record.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you all. And yes, of course, just to reiterate what Sylvia just said, I don't think we need to continue. You certainly are able to, if you as a board would like to. There is time left in that 65 days to get to the next meeting. I didn't count the days, but I know we've only used 29 of 65. We have 36 left, so I would imagine that would get us to the May meeting. So if that's what you would like to do, I know the applicant would be up for that, but we don't think it's necessary because you wouldn't get a zoning compliance form or a building permit if you proposed something other than what was conditioned by ZBA.
Okay.
You know, you could ask Mike Cronin if he wants to interject on that, but I do have a few items that I'd like to clarify. First of all, with the shed is currently 100% according to our A2 survey on Jeff Roy's property. It's within 0.2 feet, so it is close to the property line on that side. But it is fully on his property according to the A2 survey. Now, what's being proposed is shifting that slightly to get 2 feet away from both the rear and that north side property line to make it fully conforming. As you stated, a shed less than 120 square feet, one on the property, at least 2 feet from the property lines is as of right. No variance is needed. It's less than 120 square feet. It could be over the septic system because it's less than 200 square feet. So it's perfectly acceptable by your regulations and health regulations to allow it to stay where it is. Secondly, for the right of way and the parking, 115 is the last house that right of way serves, and there is space for a car within that driveway right out in front of 115's property to the north. If you look at that, the end of that gravel driveway ends in front of their property, and there's one space there. I know it says anywhere on the property, but that would be a natural space. And if there was another one just north of that, or two parallel to each other there, that would be the most natural space to benefit 115 Middletown Avenue. Rather than directly behind the house or on top of the septic system.
Right.
The original septic system most likely was installed without the thought of anybody parking on it. So it's probably not rated for traffic. The tank that we have, it was incorrectly stated that the tank is moving further to the east. Actually, it's the other way. The one that is striped on there, that's hatched, that is the new location, turn 90 degrees. So it's in a north-south direction, not the east-west direction. So it's actually moving away from the Dooley's property to make it parallel to the deck so that we can get at least 5 feet from the steps that are required because of the house being lifted 10 feet off the ground for FEMA. So that is why that septic tank is turned 90 degrees. And it is slightly, if you look at the plan, it is slightly further to the west. So we've compacted all of that as much as possible. You can see the tank, the rotated tank is getting very close to the leaching system. You don't want that too close or touching. Right now it's within probably 2 to 3 feet. We don't want it any closer to that. CRAD reviewed and approved that, and there's a B100A approved on file for that change. So it's actually becoming more conforming to that property line, because right now it's close to the north property line, and it's becoming further, a few feet further away from that property line. Next is, we're not asking you to trade any variances. We're just simply stating that the property across the board is becoming more conforming dimensionally from the property lines. It is both north and south sidelines, the front lines becoming further from the property lines and more conforming. The house interior gross floor area of the house is actually less than the existing. It shows in the table as 2 square feet more, but as explained in March, that has to include that 2-foot overhang, the second floor overhang where the deck is. The way your definition reads is, even though that second floor overhang, there's no enclosed wall there, but that overhang area has to count as floor area to the house. So that is the only reason why it shows as 2 square feet over. If you compute the interior gross floor area, it's actually less than the existing house. So he's proposing generally a house that's smaller interior gross floor area than the existing one to make it more conforming. The difference in the height was stated that is about 10 feet, and that is exactly what is required for FEMA. If you look at the plan, the existing floor of the existing house is elevation 7.2. The proposed one is elevation 17.35, which is just over 10 feet. So that's the main difference, is to raise it so that it is compliant with FEMA. And that is the difference of the height of the house. So as you said, if you take the existing house and lift it up to make it compliant to FEMA, it would have to be at least that height. So that would be the same way. Another thing that I wanted to clarify was Attorney Rimmer mentions the survey map, that there are 2 site plans on file. There are not 2 site plans on file. The survey map that was prepared for Jeff, they did a conceptual early on in the process. They did a conceptual footprint layout, and it happened to be on the survey map. So that's all that was. The detailed site plan with the zoning table, the one that was submitted with the application, paper copies were provided on record, is the Indigo site plan that has the more recent date of December 13th, 2022. That is the site plan of record. The other one is just the survey of record, and disregard that footprint that was shown on that older survey map.
Joe?
Yes.
And I'm speaking for myself, not for everybody else here, but I know that I myself would like to see what the actual house is going to look like now that we've removed the circular stairway going up in the roof deck, so we can see what the lines are, because I would feel better approving a project if we saw what the actual drawing was going to look like. And I just don't want to cross out the steps and then cross out the deck, and then we're going to do something above the deck now.
And like I said, that's completely up to the board, and that is fine. The applicant would be fine if you chose to continue, and the architect drew up the plan. Basically, the ridge of the roof is just going to continue past that area, and there's going to be, obviously, to continue the ridge of the roof, there's going to be more house volume up there rather than a roof deck.
Exactly.
So right now, there's actually less roof volume proposed up there because it's an open. I don't even like to call it a roof deck because it's just above the second floor. It's not above a half story, but that is your complete decision. There were a few clarifications that I had to make that I've already made a few Last one is just a reiteration that this is a small lot. Yes, a lot of times that's used in ZBA arguments, but this lot is unique in the fact that it only has a 35-foot width. So taking off 15 and 15 on both sides is 30. There's only a 5-foot swath down the middle of this lot that's conforming. So it's impossible to build anything in there. And this house is more conforming dimensionally to setbacks than the existing house. Now, also on this one along the south, you have that right of way. So that further restricts this property. It doesn't have a south side yard. It has a very narrow north side yard, improving that a little bit with the reorientating of the house. But I just wanted, some numbers were thrown around before, 8 feet and so forth. It's 35 minus 15 and 15, so it's a 5-foot swath down the center. Lastly, I would just like to share my screen and show you some new letters of support that came in March that you
Yeah,
have.
that'd be great if you could read those in, just so we have them read in.
For the record, and then I will be done. Let me get
We have
those
copies of those.
for you.
We need
Yes,
copies. We will also need copies.
of course, I will email these to you. Let me just share.
Thank you very much.
If he's, there's really no reason to, because we're only gonna ask to have it read in again next month.
Joe, here's the situation. I guess, let me talk to the board. Will we feel more comfortable having an actual drawing representing what
I think that the neighbors
deserves that?
deserve to see that.
I really,
Thank you.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
I think they deserve to
I mean,
see
you
that.
really want to kick the can down the road? I mean, so Joe, let me ask Joe.
Yeah.
Are you there, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, so these guys are thinking that we're gonna have some kind of major change in the look of this thing, or there's gonna be, what are we gonna see? You know, I know you guys have your opinions, but I want to know, like, what kind of change are we gonna have on this? Oh, perfect. So what's gonna go on when we come back a month from now? We've got a bunch of other cases. We've been here now for I don't know how long. And I'm sure Mr. Rimmer's gonna come back and Mr. Jeff, whatever his last, Mr. Dooley's gonna come back again. We're probably gonna rehash this again for I don't know how many hours again. So can you tell me in a couple words, like, what are we gonna see that's gonna be different here?
So the architect is online, and I'll let him tell you, but if you can just see these two sections here, you know, basically this ridged roof, this pitched roof is just going to continue back, continue all the way back in this area, like, you know, traditional pitched roof that you're used to seeing. That's just going, instead of this section here being a roof deck, second floor deck, whatever we like to call it, this ridge is just going to continue back, and then the spiral staircase is going to be removed. That's it.
And so what do you guys think?
So
is
I'm
the
just
deal?
asking, so this,
I think having the formal drawing, documenting what the changes are
Yeah.
and having the letters.
And what's the,
Just having it-
we've got the letters, so
Yeah.
what's the
Come
downside?
back. I'll be in a minute.
That gentleman here that represents the abutting property owner.
right,
Right,
They're not in favor of this. If you don't show them and they sue you, like the ZBA, they're gonna say, like the first time, have you had enough time to prepare?
I'm sure you're not pre-deciding. The other side.
Absolutely
the other side-
not.
the other
Not
side-
pre-deciding.
Absolutely
Not
not.
pre-deciding.
And I don't want to
And
do
they
that
can
to the mission. I don't, absolutely.
I don't know if that got in the record. The other side could lose and they could take an appeal as well.
Absolutely, but you know, you had a concern that you didn't have enough time to prepare. And I agree with you. That's okay.
Thank you.
We're here to hear everything and then make a decision. Okay, whether we agree or not. But if I'm sitting in your chair and you don't get, your client doesn't win, doesn't get his way, and he sued, wouldn't you use hate?
I
They
see.
had an opportunity to extend this a month so
Okay.
we could see what they're gonna build and they
Yeah.
denied us that opportunity.
Capiche.
we have a precedent where, with drawings.
I'm with you.
Where they have, where they've done, they said they were gonna do one thing and they did something else.
It's the other side of the fence, I guess.
So that's the only reason.
Okay,
And to me personally,
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think your council will agree with me that it's relatively standard to condition an approval on a revised plan consistent with what we're stating. And if for some reason what we produce isn't consistent with what we're saying, then the approval doesn't happen. Because it's a contingent approval. It's contingent on us giving you a plan that says exactly what we're saying it's going to say. And I agree with Joe that it's an uneventful deletion. And it's the roof line that you already see is going to be continued over. So I think Mike would agree with me that it's fairly standard and there's nothing appealable about the fact of conditioning with respect to that. So my preference personally, especially in light of the fact that Attorney Rimmer was allowed a continuance, I think the applicant has a right to be able to proceed. If the board is inclined to, deny the application based on that, then obviously we'll be open-minded, but in fairness to the applicant, we've been here 3 times.
Well, we understand
In
that.
fairness to everybody,
Yes.
I think that not only does
You
the,
chose not to be here.
but the public has the right to see what we're gonna build. This
Absolutely.
is on a small lot.
Right.
Neighbor's very concerned, and if this neighbor's concerned, there might be other neighbors that are concerned. And we want to turn every stone to make sure that we've covered our bases, regardless of which way it goes.
Right. And we've just had some unfortunate experience with drawings. And I know that I would feel better if the drawing depicted exactly what we were building, so that the neighbors could physically see exactly what we're building and we don't have
what we're asked to approve.
exactly what we're asked to approve, because we've had a problem in the past. So I know I would feel more comfortable with that, and that's why I would prefer not to close public comment, but give you the opportunity to correct the drawing so that if we come back in showing exactly what it is we want to build, so that we give the public one last opportunity to view it before we vote on it. I don't think that's unreasonable.
I'm merely stating what our preference is. So as Joe said, if that's what the board feels comfortable with and that's what's going to be required, then obviously we'll accommodate for that.
Unfortunately,
Mike,
We've only used 29 days
correct.
of our 30, of our.
About 65 days, yeah. So we have
We have adequate time, with your consent,
with you, yes,
to continue the hearing.
yes, that's the key word, with your consent.
Yes, I think as Joe stated, we will consent to the continuance based on the board's request.
Okay. Now, my question is this, do we need to make a motion while we're in discussion, while we're in public comment for the extension?
Mr. Chairman, those letters of support I mentioned earlier, would you like to see those?
If we're going to extend it, Joe, we can read them in the next meeting. That was my only point.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we're not, I'd read them in now.
I think it's, we're gonna rehash this later.
Yeah, we're gonna rehash it later.
If I may, one thing, so there were a couple of comments about where to park cars. I don't think that, it doesn't matter what they think about that. They're the Serbian state. They don't get to decide where the cars are parked. There is on the deed, however, a right that runs with the land on an area to use, maintain, repair, and replace an area on that western end that's not depicted. I leave it to you if they're going to redo sketches, if that's gonna be marked out, because that's unclear as to what that may be impeding.
My biggest concern now is the actual physical drawing of the property, so that the neighbors, abutting neighbors, have an understanding of what's actually being built on their property.
I think we could all agree that parking is a problem.
Yeah, of course.
And if the deed doesn't have a meets and bounds description of the parking area, any sketch would just be a guess.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't help, but
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess, do we need to make a motion to extend this, or can I just? That's
Yes, you do.
okay. So I'd like to make, I myself,
I move that, given the consent of the applicant and given the withdrawal of the current plan, that this be continued to the next regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that the revised drawings be submitted in the required time in advance of that meeting.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. With that, if we could And we'll also, am I correct? You also need a letter from their attorney stating that they want to request.
Yes, I was gonna say, we'd
Yes.
like to have that
If we could get a letter from yourself stating you want a
in the
continuance
file.
for the file.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, and Mr. Roy, we appreciate your, we know, I understand how you want to get started on this, but I think we need to dot the i's and cross the t's on this, just so that the neighbors can see it. This is the first large structure going up in that area for FEMA compliance, and I think we should do this, by the, dot the i's and cross the t's. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to go.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Chuck,
Yes,
Jeff would like to say something.
Jeff.
Yes, it's Jeff Dooley, 103. Thank you for being fair. That's all I've ever asked. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. With that, we'd like to go to 22/23-23. Andrew and Lisa Stanford seek a 10.8.2 and 10.8.3 non-conforming lot size / 12,500 square feet required, 9,903 square proposed. Part 24.5.1 street line setbacks 25 feet required, 20 feet from Fenwood Drive and 19.7 feet from Fenwood Parkway proposed, and part 24.6.2 structure coverage / 20% allowed, 21.1 proposed of the zoning regulations to permit the construction of a new 2,861 square foot home. Demolition of existing home at 94 Fenwood Drive, map 9 / lot 25, Residence A District, Coastal Area Management Zone, file 31023, received 4/12/23, open to public comment by 6/14/23. And I would like to state for the record, my name is Charles Gaydon. I live on 6 Fenwood Parkway. This property is at the end of my street. I have never met the people that are building this house. I don't know the owners. I don't know the contractor. I know nothing associated with this, other than that they're proposing to build a structure. So I see no need to recuse myself. Seated for this meeting, seated for tonight will be myself, Kevin Danley, Alfred Wilcock, Aaron Caldwell, and Matt Diamond.
Chuck,
Yes.
am I excused?
Yes, you are. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And presenting for 20/23-23 is Joe Wren. Am I correct?
That is correct, Chuck. Thank you. And thank you for that, description of no conflict of interest. And we did not think that or perceive that in any way. So, but thank you for that clarification.
But you're welcome.
There is a neighbor, while we're on that subject, there is a neighbor, Barrows at 13 Fenwood Parkway, who works in town hall, and knows the applicants, correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought it was the one at 13. There is a neighbor, that, is a butter across the street to this property. She was noticed with this application, and we don't see that there's any conflict of interest.
Yeah, they'll both.
And
He was unable to write any sort of letter of support or anything for this application.
Chuck, I should probably, right, I mean, I may be an interloper there. I'm at 2 Fenwood Road.
No, you're not even close.
Not even close.
You're not even close.
It's-
You make me look close.
It's a driver away.
Yeah, you make me look very close. Okay.
All right, so now that we have all of that out, thank you again. I will share my screen, but the applicant is here in my office. I'll turn on my video now so you can see all of us. So the applicants, Andrew and Lisa, are here in my office, as you can see. And if you have any questions for them, certainly. So they are not in your audience, but they're here with me and not separate on Zoom either. So if I can share the screen, I will start with, let me change the share here. Go to the site plan. Okay. So everyone could see my screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as typical, upper left-hand location is the site location map, so you can see pinpoint the location for this one. We all know there are about 17 roads with the word Fenwood in them in this area, so it is easy to get confused where this exact location is. So that map brings you right to the exact point. It's on the southeast quadrant or corner of Fenwood Drive and Fenwood Parkway, and more accurately shown on the site location map. In the center on the top, we have the zoning table. To the right of that, we have the coverage tables where we figured out existing and proposed coverages. And then a lot of the remaining information on the second sheet and on the right-hand side is just for the septic system related to the new septic system. We did do soil testing with Pratt. And the new design was also reviewed and approved by the health district as well for that compliant area. And we'll get a little more into that. Basically, before I open the application, I just wanted to like to zoom in on the plan and show you some of the merits of the application and some things that we were up against. So again, this lot is a corner lot. So as you know, we have 2 front yard setbacks. So on the western side here, and the northern side here, we have the 25-foot front yard setback. Corner lot, so we have 2 other yards, basically 2 sides, but same as rear, 15 feet on this side, 15 feet on this side. Existing conditions of the property, there's a paved steep driveway from Fenwood Drive on the north side of the property here. And there is a crushed stone parking area you can see in the back here off the Fenwood Parkway side. There is an existing 10 by 12 shed here, 120 square feet, but it's within less than a foot of the property. That is proposed to be removed. So that nonconformity will be eliminated. Also on that side of the property, you can see with this hatching, the existing house comes over that setback line, both on the front setback here and on the side setback. That area is an existing garage that is being removed, basically. So the east side setback is being eliminated. Currently, it's 10.4 feet. From the overhang to the property line, and that is becoming conforming to 18.2 feet. So almost nearly an 8-foot increase on that sideline. On the front side, you can see that it is over the setback. The existing house was built on this skew on the property, not parallel to either property line. And by the house being on a skew, you can see that it got over the eastern side, the north front yard, the western front yard. The only one that is compliant to is the south side yard setback, the existing house. They are proposing the foundation is in good shape. They are not in a flood zone. They're allowed to have a basement. So they are proposing to demolish the garage and the slab portion of the house and utilize the other remaining portion of the existing foundation. So they're held to where that house was originally constructed. Along with that proposal of adding a second floor to this part of the application, you will see when I bring up the architectural plans, the architect, we were not sure, she is away, we were not sure if she was going to make it or not. In a moment, we'll see if she's online. I can't see everyone that's online. She just boarded. Okay, so she just got on an airplane, so she's not going to be able to join us. So I will show you the architectural plans and how it was designed. You can see the roof dormers here, the new roof lines, and you can see that those were designed to be conforming to both the north side setback and the west Fenwood Parkway setback. All of those are conforming to those areas. So the vertical expansion, vertical portions of the house along these new roof lines, you can see are conforming. They're right at the 25 feet, but they are conforming in both locations. Now, the existing house, we're using the existing foundation, is currently over and non-conforming to the property line on the west side. So you can see these dimensions here. Currently, the existing overhang to the house is 20.0. That's not to the side wall of the house, that's to the overhang. Since the wall of the house is existing non-conforming, we measure to the closest point, which is the overhang. So currently that's 20 feet. The proposal is 19.7. Again, the house is not getting, the wall, vertical wall of the house is not getting closer, it's just the overhang. There's I believe it's an 8 or 9 inch overhang on the house, reduced from the standard 10 to 12. And that's carried around all sides of the house, as you can see, with the exception of this northeast area, because there's an indent in the house, that eave line is just carried. So this is the only area where there's larger than an 8 inch or a 12 inch eave. That overhang is slightly more, and you can see we have a dimension to that on the north side. But on the west side, this is the only area that we're making less conforming. It's going from 20 to the eve now to 19.7. And really the main reason for that is currently there's really no overhang on that side of the house now, nothing to protect the side wall of the house from weather. And to continue that 8 inch eve all the way around the house, it gets 0.3 feet closer to the sideline. But it doesn't block any views or anything. It's just simply the overhang of the house. The vertical corner and wall of the house is at the same spot using the same foundation. Lastly, what's being proposed is this addition to move the one-car garage to this side. What that does is it eliminates the steep driveway, eliminates that asphalt, that pavement, to open up more land for infiltration and reduce stormwater runoff and better the quality. The proposed driveway here, where there's currently crushed. Yes.
Excuse me just 1 second. When we were talking about an 8 inch eave, okay? And I thought that under 12,500 square feet, the eaves don't count in coverage.
They don't count in coverage, but they do count towards setback. So that's why I was just mentioning the setback. They do not count towards coverage, and it wasn't included in the coverage for this application.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. We have to have a 5-foot paved apron, as you're familiar with, but from there in, we have a crushed stone driveway, again, to open it up, reduce the runoff, and open up to infiltration. Again, there's an existing crushed stone area here already, so it's just lengthening that slightly to get to the new garage, attached garage addition in this location. As you can see, that footprint was designed to be within setbacks completely. Since the garage is being removed on this side to make this more conforming on that corner, a garage was added, and this is a much less steep driveway, and it's not going to be paved. So we feel that that's a huge improvement with no asphalt, reduced impervious coverage, and a flatter, more accessible and usable driveway to a single car garage. The existing septic system is here. You can see the tank and a dry well. That is not compliant with the health code now. It's more or less original to the house, in good soil. It's been working for a long time. You can see the addition conflicts with the tank. So they made a decision to not just relocate the tank, but to move it to the northwest corner of the property and to a more conforming location that meets all of the distances from the property lines and distances from the house, We have a adequately sized two compartment septic tank, which we don't have back here. And a adequately sized septic leaching field here, which again is just a single dry well that's non-compliant to the public health code. So here we're bringing this into full compliance with the public health code. We're not in a flood zone. We're in a CAN zone, but it is not within 100 feet of a coastal resource. Utilizing the existing foundation for the most part, removing part of the house and adding this addition. The patio back here is at grade, and it is pavers, and that is proposed just to be replaced basically in kind with pavers. No elevation change, so that does not count as coverage. Scrolling up to the zoning table. As you can see, we have everything listed for existing all the way through, everything listed for proposed. And we'll just focus on the setbacks and the coverage here, the purpose of this application. So existing on Fenwood Drive side here, you can see that we have 20.6 to the existing stairs, 20.2 to the eave of the existing house. What's being proposed is 21.3 to the proposed stairs, so plus 0.7 feet. 20.4 to the proposed house eave, which is plus 0.2, which is reducing the nonconformity by 0.7 and reducing the nonconformity by 0.2. On the Fenwood Parkway side, this is the one we described earlier. This is a minus 0.3. So increasing the nonconformity by 0.3 just for the eave location to carry that 8-inch eave around that corner of the house. And on the side yard setback for the east boundary, you can see here we have 0.9 feet to the shed, 10.4 to the eave of the house, 11 to the actual house wall. And now we're going to 18.1 feet to the proposed house. So significant reduction on that side. For coverage, currently it's at 23.7% for 2,346 square feet. We're reducing that down to 21.1. So that reduces that nonconformity by 2.6%. And 252 square feet. So there's a 252 square foot reduction in the coverage there, a reduction of the existing nonconformity. To the right of that table, we have our standard coverage tables, and we indicate here everything that was counted, included and excluded. You can see everything itemized in the list, where we came up with the 2346 and the 2094 and the corresponding percentages of 23.7 to 21.1. I'm going to switch the share and bounce over to the application, so we can discuss that and just write down to the variance table. Now, I talked to Chris Costa about this because I wanted to ask for, or originally requested 10.7.2 or 10.7.1, whatever those are, the 10.7 ones, because we're not fully demolishing this house. We're only taking it down to the foundation, utilizing the majority of the existing foundation, adding a small addition, removing part of the house completely. But Chris said that in the past, what has been done in this situation is that we go with 10.8.2, 10.8.3 which basically are for a full tear down. So we did that here on the application, and that's what ended up in the legal notice. So we have 10.8.2 and 10.8.3, which are our normal variances for a tear down rebuild because of the non-conforming lot and the non-conforming lot size, since we're less than 12,500 square feet. We have the street line setback to both Fenwood Drive and Fenwood Parkway. If you remember from earlier, Fenwood Drive gets a little better, reduced nonconformity. Fenwood Parkway is reduced by 0.3 on that side from 20.0 to 19.7. So that's the variance on that side. And then lastly, building structure coverage required at 20%. We are asking for 21.1, but again, that's a reduction down from the existing at 23.6 or 7, whatever that number was. So more or less across the board, reduction of nonconformity, except on that one side. But we feel the overall balance is a much more conforming lot, much more conforming structure, much safer driveway, reduction of impervious coverage, reduction of stormwater runoff on the site, and a fully code compliant septic system that has been approved by health. So some of that is summarized at the bottom of page 3. And the hardship, again, what I like to do, just so I don't miss anything, is just read this in quick. This covers all the bases, and I just want to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. So the subject parcel is a small lot area 9903 square feet, and is an existing non-conforming lot of record. The lot is a corner lot, therefore has two 25-foot front yard setbacks. Since the lot is a corner lot, approximately 64.6% of the property is consumed by yard setbacks. The existing house was built in its current location in 1960 and is sharply skewed on the lot, and therefore does not conform to both front yard setbacks and the eastern side setback. If you look at the plan, and it's skewed, I believe it's about 10 degrees or so, but the degrees don't really matter. If they made it parallel in 1960 to the front yard setback, it would be mostly conforming with today's setbacks. But unfortunately, they built it on a skew, and we're stuck with that. The applicant is proposing to fix that non-conforming portion of the east side of the house, but we're stuck with the west side and part of the north side that's currently over using the same foundation. So hence the requested setbacks. In addition to the aforementioned land-based hardship, several existing nonconformities will be eliminated or improved as follows. And these 5 items just summarize everything we just talked about. So eliminating the east side, eliminating the front yard setback on the northeast corner, where that corner of the house is being retracted. So that eliminates that portion within the front yard setback. Number 2 is eliminating the nonconformity on the east side. Eliminating the shed on the east side, again, reduces coverage and eliminates that existing nonconformity. The front yard setback along Fenwood Drive will be improved overall, and the building structure coverage will be improved from 23.6 to 21.7 or 21.1%. Additionally, with the removal of the existing paved driveway, there will be a reduction in impervious area, which will promote infiltration and reduce stormwater runoff. And in summary, the proposed project will be in harmony with other recent new construction in the A zone. The proposed reconstructed house is designed by the architect to reuse the existing foundation and to eliminate or improve the majority of existing setback nonconformities and to reduce building structure coverage. The proposed work will be in conformance with all building, health, electrical, fire, and safety codes as applicable. The existing septic system will be replaced with a code compliant system, which has been approved by CRAD, and the project will conserve the public health, safety, convenience, welfare, and property values of the residents of Old Saybrook. Now, lastly, I would just like to open up the architectural plans, and normally the architect does this piece. I will do my best to show you the proposed house. Make sure you can see the new share. Yes, so we have obviously the first floor with the new garage on this side. Roof plan, you can see the added second floor, and you can see how it's retracted from the edges. There is a sloping roof on all these sides and the vertical wall of the house. Those lines are shown on the site plan, and those were made to be conforming with your setbacks. So there's no second floor expansion within the restricted setback areas. And then the overall roof plan, you can see the roof of the new dormer areas, and you can see they're pulled in from all sides, again, to be conforming. The sections and renderings of the house, here we have the east elevation, So looking at from the east property line, this is the retracted portion of the house with the existing chimney. In this beyond is the new one-story garage that's conforming. This here is the north elevation, so looking at the front from Fenwood Drive. This is over here is the retracted portion of the house, the existing chimney, and the main body of the house with a portion of the one-story garage behind over here. And lastly, we have west elevation. So this is from Fenwood Parkway. So the one-story garage, you can see the retracted second floor expansion area here with the dormers in the back. And on this side, you can see how all of that's pulled in as well to be conforming. And finally, the elevation from the south property line. So one-car garage, existing chimney, existing main body of the house, and then the dormers for the second floor expansion on this one. There was one letter that was put in opposition that we are aware of. I would like to go over, I'm sure you have a copy of that. So it was submitted.
I'll read that in, don't worry, okay? I'll read that in afterwards.
Okay, so if you want to read it in afterwards, I would just like to go through that letter. Just
You want me
kind
to
of,
read it? Would you like me to read it first?
sure.
Okay. April 1st, 2023, from Richard and Susan Strauss, Town of Old Saybrook, Zoning Board of Appeals, 302 Main Street, Old Saybrook, Connecticut, 06475-174. I have attached a communication regarding the Wednesday, April 12th, 6 p.m. agenda item 20/23-23, Andrew and Leslie Stanford, 94 Fenwood Drive. I'd rather not alienate new neighbors, so I have kept my name off the communication. However required, please use my name. I have discussed this with others in the neighborhood, and hopefully they will let their consistent thoughts be heard by the Board of Appeals. I would like to thank the board for their consistent intent to keep the wonderful neighborhoods of Old Saybrook compliant and pleasant for all those who live here. My communication details are in the letterhead above, and should the board members need additional information, please let me know. Best regards, Richard Strauss. I'm going to read it now. Interested person, written communication, Wednesday, April 12th, 6 p.m., 20/23-23, Andrew and Lisa Stanford, 94 Fenwood Drive. This house was purchased within the past year, and little work has been done to improve the home. The fact that the owners has done nothing to replace the obvious unhealthy and outdated excessive system shows a lack of care about the neighbors, nearby protected waterways and community. In reviewing the information regarding what is proposed, it shows changing a house which is consistent in look and design with the neighborhood homes and turning it into a large, tall home while continuing to be non-compliant with zoning. The proposed home will change the character of the area. The proposed home is non-compliant with the zoning regulations of the area, setbacks on two sides, coverage percent, as well as paving a currently stone driveway. The applicant's statement that the house is sharply screwed to the lot is a serious untruth. The current home is only a few degrees off of being aligned with Fenwood Drive. The fact that the project information states the proposed use will not change. However, the transition from a 2,117 square foot to a 2,861 square foot house, an increase in height of nearly 50 feet where the home is already on a mound, to me is a significant use change. It is felt that building a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot defeats the reason that we have zoning restrictions in Old Saybrook to help maintain the health, safety, and consistency of our neighborhoods. Why not maintain the current home and invest in remodeling instead of building a larger, new compliant home? A remodel could fit into the surrounding homes, does not create a monstrous look. Monstrosity, does it not block anyone's vision of the cove, does not continue to jeopardize through overbuild on the site. Many of the neighbors have remodeled recently and complied with the zoning requirements. It is hoped that the appeals board will not approve such a non-compliant structure on a non-compliant lot within months of acquiring the property. Also, the demolition and rebuild as proposed will seriously endanger citizens in the neighborhood with no on-street parking and very narrow streets. You can comment to all of it now if you'd like.
Sorry, I was muted. I would just like to go through the points of the letter with you. Obviously, it's a relatively short letter, so just take a few moments here, but I think it's important. Yes, the applicant are new owners to the property. They're excited to move here. Lease is originally from East Lyme, correct?
Yeah.
And lived down in New Jersey for some years, and they're excited to get back to the area, enjoy the town and Old Saybrook and so forth. They've been taking these months that they've owned the property to think of what they would like to do with it. Obviously hiring professionals. You saw the very nice architectural plans they put together. They got the surveyor on board, soil testing, you know, all of that takes months just to materialize, just a vision, hire everybody, get into schedules, do all that work. You know, the better part of a year went by just them trying to figure out all the pieces that they need to do to get this in front of you. So with all due respect, we don't agree that they've done nothing. You know, the house has been sitting there, yes, while they still live in New Jersey, but it takes time to get to this point. It's not an inexpensive proposition either. So they've been spending a lot of their time and resources moving toward this end result and renovating and rebuilding the home on the property. So as far as the septic system goes, it's not failing. They're not under any order to replace it. Fenwood area, generally, as we all know, has really good soils for septic systems. So original septic systems like this one most likely last for a very long time and continue to work for a very long time just because the soils are so good out there, sand and gravel, and they absorb almost anything that you could put into them. So it's not obviously unhealthy. It is outdated. Yes, it doesn't meet current public health code. But most houses that have original septic systems do not meet current public health code. They are proposing with this plan, and it's already approved by the health district, to completely replace the system with a new compliant septic tank and a new compliant leaching system. So that box is checked, and they are proceeding along that avenue. Second paragraph. There are many homes in Fenwood and the extended neighborhoods driving around through there that have added second stories. We know that they're not all one-story homes. Some of the newer renovation over the past 10 to 20 years have added second stories. Like this, it's allowed by regulation to have up to 2.5 stories. It's allowed by regulation to have up to 35-foot height. So we disagree with that. It's a large, tall home. They went through a lot of back and forth with the architect to not create a tall home. As you can see, the vertical wall expansion of the second floor does not come all the way out to the foundation wall location. It's been retracted to be conforming and to give the look and feel of, not as bulky of a home than it would be if it was a full second story above, without the dormers and so forth. So we disagree. We think it meets the character of the area. It's a very attractive house and will add to not only the safety of the area, but also the property values in the general area of this home. If you look at the zoning table, the height of the house goes up to 27.7 feet. So we'll say 28 feet for all intents and purposes. That is 7 feet less than they could go as of right, up to 35 feet, not within the setback, but outside the setbacks. They could extend that up to 35 feet, as you know, and they're not proposing that. They're proposing 27.7, which is 7.3 feet less than what you allow as of right with the zoning regulations. The last statement there says that it's non-compliant with zoning regulations. We already went over that. It's non-compliant on one side and non-compliant with the 2 front yard setbacks. 1 front yard setback we're improving. The only side yard that is currently non-conforming, they are eliminating that with the shed and the reduction of the house, and the coverage percentage is being considerably reduced by 2.6%, whatever that number was that we mentioned earlier. And then this goes on to say as paving a currently stone driveway. So that is not correct. They are removing the existing paved driveway on the Fenwood Drive side completely. No more driveway in that location as the drawing shows. They are putting a driveway on the west side off of Fenwood Parkway. We're required to do a 5-foot paved apron that shows for plowing and so forth. That's within the town's right of way. The rest of the driveway, as clearly indicated on the plan, from that paved apron to the new one-car garage is a decorative crushed stone. So it is not increasing impervious area. Third paragraph, we talked about the skew of the house and whether it's someone determines sharp or not doesn't really matter. It was not built parallel and perpendicular to the property lines. So it puts the corners of the house and the edges, the outer edges of the house over the setback lines as indicated earlier. And using the existing foundation of the house puts us back into those areas. Again, they have elected to retract the east side of the house to resolve that northeast corner and those associated nonconformities there. Next sentence statement gets into the proposed use, and the use of the property is single-family residential, so obviously that use is not changing. Transition from a 2117 house to a 2861 house, an increased height of nearly 15 feet when the home is already on a mound, to me is a significant use change. That does not change the use of the property. Both the gross floor area of the house, you can see on the zoning table, that is going from 21.4% to 28.9%, which is well within the allowable 40%. So as of right, they could add another 10 or 11% gross floor area and still be within your regulations. As far as the height of the house, I don't have the existing height of the existing house, but regardless, we already went through that. We're 7+ feet less than what you require as of right. The house is not on a mound. It's just the natural topography of that area. It's level with the house and the property to the south and to the east of it. And it just happens to slope down to Fenwood Drive as you approach to the north side. There is a slope there. It's not mounded. It's all natural soil. We found that with our soil testing. And there might be a little bit of fill around the house when they built it 60+ years ago. But it is not an artificial mound. The majority of the soil that's there is natural, and that's natural topography. We are, as you know, we compute the average existing grade around the house to come up with the height. We did that calculation. It shows in the footnotes below the table. And the overall height proposed is 27.7, which again is far less than the 35. The fourth paragraph. We are proposing a more conforming structure on an existing non-conforming lot. Unfortunately, we can't change the dimensions of the lot size or the lot area. We're stuck with that. But they are reducing the structure and reducing the nonconformities overall on this particular property. So they are retaining the current foundation of the home. They are renovating the existing home. It is consistent with other recently remodeled houses that we talked about before. In our opinion, this is not a monstrosity. You know, they didn't pay the architect to create a monstrosity. They paid the architect to create something nice that's fitting for the area and that they can be proud of. As far as anyone's view, there is no view easement over this property. They do get to go up to 35 feet. And again, they're 7 feet lower than that. Last paragraph. You know, lots of these applications come to you. You see many of these every single month. You have 3 to 5, 6, 7 applications. On these small non-conforming lots, it's very difficult, especially if the house was originally built in a certain location and it's staying, you know, it's remaining in that location because of its foundation or other reason. And, you know, they're doing their best, utilizing our guidance to retract in certain areas to make this a more conforming property. And we feel we commend them as a designer for their willingness to listen to us and to make those changes. So we feel, in our opinion, and as stated previously, that's a more compliant structure. The last sentence there, the demolition and rebuild as proposal seriously endangers citizens of this neighborhood with no on-street parking and very narrow streets. So we definitely disagree with that statement. We are providing a garage. The garage is probably about, if I had to guess without scaling, nearly 40 feet from the street or so, 35 to 40 feet, which easily could fit 2 cars back to back plus one in the garage. The very steep driveway now is very difficult to park on, and that is not safe. The proposed driveway is safer in that regard, leading up to that driveway, and also in the regard that it's pervious, not asphalt, and that it's very level to the street rather than very, very steep. So thank you for hearing us. We just wanted to go through all those points and provide our opinion and our statements for that. If you have any questions, the architect unfortunately can't be online, but I'll do my best to answer any questions you have.
I have a question, Joe. So you're 100% using the foundation. Guaranteed.
Yes.
We're not gonna find out that they end up tearing down the foundation and rebuilding everything. So you're 100% confident that we're reusing the foundation.
Before that, yes, to answer that, but they also have had professionals look at the foundation so that it can support. Was it a structural engineer or just the architect that looked at? Okay, so the architect reviewed the existing foundation because the second floor was being added, that extra weight, and a determination was made that the existing foundation would be utilized. Now, a lot of times we see this, as you know, where they would like to keep the existing house, the wood frame part of the house, and just renovate and lift. And then what's found out during the construction process is that the house itself, the frame part of it, can't be lifted or needs to be taken all the way down and rebuilt because of energy codes and building codes and insulation and so forth. This is different in the fact that we are proposing to remove the house down completely to the foundation or to the floor. So they are retaining the floor joists as well here. All of that is adequate, and they will be rebuilding up from that floor system. So not only does the foundation stay, but the floor system does. The only area that will be different will be that eastern area where that garage portion is being removed and a little bit at the front entry, just to create that area. But everything else will remain the same. And of course, a little slab foundation added for the new 1-car garage. But yes, on record, the foundation will remain as well as the floor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the applicant? No. There are no other questions of the applicant. Based on that, I'd like to open it up to public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak for or against this applicant? I don't. Seeing that there is no one wishing to get involved for or against this application, I'm going to close public comment. Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Any discussion?
I would,
I do, so go right to motion. Okay,
we'll go right to motion.
you go right to motion.
I move that we approve the application for a variance. I don't base it on the ground of hardship, because of there being 2 corner lots. There is still a very ample building envelope left.
Right.
I base it instead on the elimination of several nonconformities and the reduction of several other nonconformities. I'm especially impressed by the reduction that occurs on the east end of the house by the elimination of the current garage And I also wanted to comment on, I thought, the very clever way in which the architect compressed the second story so that that bulk was all within the current setback.
Yes, I noticed that.
That was a very clever move.
We're not approving this, so if anybody's wondering, we're not approving the second floor addition, they have that by right.
Yeah, that by right, because it's within the building envelope.
Right.
So
with that, I end my motion.
could I ask a conditional friendly amendment?
Sure.
I'd like to make a conditional that they utilize the existing foundation
And floor plate.
and floor, yeah, and floor
If
plate.
if it's removed, that then there's no reason why they can't make this entire project
Exactly, that's what I want to make,
without any variance.
without any variance, right?
Can you read your condition?
Okay, my condition is that the foundation is to be used and not destroyed.
Is there a second?
Or if it is moved, if it is destroyed, that the house has to become compliant onto the lot.
I'll second that motion with the
As
friendly
amended.
amendment.
And that's amended.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Oh, now we have discussion.
Oh, this.
All in favor?
Aye. Opposed, none, carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, there was also, did Chris provide the CAM application? for
Yes,
this
we're gonna
one?
do that next.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to get a motion to approve the CAM.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
I need a
Second,
second.
oh, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
wait.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. CAM approved.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. And that was, the property looks beautiful and it's gonna look very nice and we're quite pleased with what you've done.
Thank you, and the applicant says the same.
Thank
You're welcome. Congratulations. Can we have a 5-minute recess? In case anyone has to go to the bathroom, I know I do. 5-minute recess.
Can you announce that this is gonna still be going?
This will still be,
Take it.
the tape is still running while we're taking a 5-minute recess. Everything's being recorded.
Hey, conversations are live on YouTube right now. You have the right to make that.
I know how to do that.
And they can't really use it. I think Kelly Levine is on as well.
Okay. Would you like me to promote her to a panelist?
Kelly,
Okay.
I don't know who are the other, I can.
Jack?
Jack?
Jones?
Jack,
Oh, Jack is my person.
okay. You can leave Jack as a participant.
I don't know why you're not moving over, Ed.
Oh, Joe's, okay, here we go. Joe's still sharing his screen.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
No.
Oh, yeah. Going to bring the meeting back to order. Seated for 22/23-24C will be Kevin Danby, Alfred Wilcock, Aaron Caldwell, Frank Keeney, and myself. We have 22/23-24C, Leo K. and Elizabeth C.
Levine.
Okay, Levine, I'm sorry, we've been pronouncing it wrong. I apologize. Seek a variance of part 10.71/10.72 nonconformity enlargement / change, part 24.5.1 street line setbacks 25 feet required, 11.8 feet proposed, in part 24.5.3 of the yard setbacks, 15 feet required, 9.8 proposed, of the zoning regulations to permit the construction of a 590 square foot 2-story addition, new entry step and overhang, Bilco door, and 2nd story front deck at 6 Uncas Road, map 1/lot 118, Residence A District, Coastal Area Management. Filed 3/10/23, received 4/12/23, opened a public hearing by 6/4/23. Representing the applicants.
I'm Edward Casella, representing Kelly and Liz Levine. Liz is in attendance this evening, and Kelly Levine is online. So as stated in the legal notice, the property is 6 Uncas, located in Cornfield Point, and then the Levine are seeking variances to construct a addition on the rear of the house and convert the peak roof of the front enclosed porch to a roof deck. Just some basics of the property. I think we put photographs in the application, but the existing house is actually 100-year-old, built in 1924. One of the original Cornfield Point cottages, Campbell style, small, 25 foot wide on this. And when we look at the second photo, it's actually only 22 feet deep. So you can, if you had a chance to drive by, you can see the house. There's the front porch that's in front. Basically, the applicant's property, again, and I'll share a screen just to show the site plan that we have. 6,000 square foot lot. The house itself is located on the northwestern corner of the lot. The setback on the front, 11.8 feet, a setback on the side, 9.8 feet. And they're seeking permission to construct a 10 by 24 square foot addition on the rear, 2-story addition. Craig Lowberry, project architect, will review the architectural plans in more detail after the presentation. The current house, as I said, is 1,226 square feet of gross floor area located on 2 floors, and the addition will increase it to a total of 1,700 square feet. The purpose of the addition is to expand the living space on the first floor to accommodate expanded kitchen, modern style great room. Property is currently a 4-bedroom house and will remain 4-bedroom. It's located, not located within the flood zone. So this is located within the 500 years, so it's not in the special flood hazard district. We did receive a positive referral from DEEP. The property also had a septic system that was installed by the WPCA during the recent approximately 8 7, 8 years ago, during the sewer avoidance program that the town, went through. So, with respect to the front yard setback variance, they're seeking a variance of the 11.8 feet front yard to convert the existing peach front porch into a roof deck,
Call it a balcony.
balcony on the first floor, so it doesn't implicate that section 9 definition is on the second floor. So we don't need a variance of any definitions. The porch is entirely located within the front yard setback. So from a volume perspective, we think it's actually a reduction of non-conformity because there'll be less structure in the front yard, just the decking system. And then in the rear, they're seeking to construct the addition and a Bilco. Part of the plan with respect to the Bilco is to construct a full foundation under the addition, which will house mechanicals, oil tank, all to be accessed by the Bilco. Right now, there's just a dug crawl space underneath with a dirt level, which the oil tank is under. So having a full, a better foundation with a concrete floor will be much better from not only an environmental perspective, but also accessibility perspective. So the variance that we require for the addition is we're seeking to extend the wall line to match it with what's there existing, which is 9.8 feet. So there's a small 5 by 10 foot patch here that we need a variance in order to accommodate the proposed addition. As you can see from the site plan, the major limiting factors on the site are the location of the existing house, which is non-conforming. And then in the area where it's otherwise you could construct a conforming addition is the septic system. So you can see when they put the septic system in, they probably couldn't put it in a worse place, frankly, because here's the leaching galleries, and then here's the septic system, the septic tank, excuse me. So the applicants in seeking to construct what is a modest addition on a modest sized house, as I said before, the total square footage of this house, once this is all done, gross floor area is 1,700 square feet, are very limited with options inside the conforming location. In addition to the area that's behind the house, they could also utilize part of the area up in the northwestern corner of the of the building, the area within the building line. But their main goal, and I think when Craig goes through the plans, you'll see, is to maintain kind of the historic look of the house, to maintain the gambrel style, and to maintain the walls heading to the back. Having jigs and jogs in the house would take away from, you know, what really is a classic cornfield point style cottage. And that's what their main goal is. And it's important to note that the resulting coverage with all these improvements is still 18.1%. So it's well less than the 20%, which is otherwise allowed. So we do have a slight reduction in nonconformity in the bulk on the front porch, but we're relying on what we believe is a classic hardship based upon the location of the septic system, which really limits them to be able to build an addition in this area that will make the house look as nice as possible. Retaining the classic cornfield point cottage look is something that they strive for. It's consistent with the other houses in the area. It's consistent with the comprehensive zoning plan, and won't have a negative impact on adjacent property values, public health, safety, those types of things. There is a CAM application as well. I'm just going to mention that. So make sure that we hit that. This is not, property is not in a flood zone. It's a decent distance away from Long Island Sound. Deep wrote a letter that said they found the plan to be consistent with the coastal policies. So that's obviously positive. So why don't I have Craig run through the architecturals, and then we can get back and zero in on some of the factors why we believe there's a hard to go.
Okay, for the record, Craig Lowry, architect, working for Kelly and Liz Levine. Yeah, what we're doing here is as Ed had mentioned, we're extending the existing walls, and that's really the reason that we're asking for the variance. We're gonna match the existing ridge line, we're gonna match the existing roof pitches. We're gonna actually extend the house, which currently is 22 feet deep. And it is really squatty looking and just not very attractive. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna provide a 32-foot gambrel style colonial home, which will blend with the neighborhood, which will keep the aesthetics of what is currently existing there, only making them, I think, better. We are not increasing any of the setback lines. We are sticking with the 9.8. As I mentioned, we are just keeping in line with the exterior walls, with the roof pitch and with the ridge. So our height is not changing. We are removing the existing appendage on the back area. The existing chimney will also go. We're going to convert to a gas system, probably. And as Ed had mentioned, we're going to also provide the basement in the back area under the 10-foot addition to house mechanicals, to do storage, to do, different things that we would have height to be able to walk down there and to be able to store things. And although we are adding the deck or the second floor terrace or balcony, whatever you want to call it, we are going to lower that floor level in order to effectively not have water penetration into the home. So we will either provide a curb or we will try to lower the decking. And also the elimination of the existing roof that currently exists out there, which happens to be a hip roof. We will be decreasing the bulk area in the setback. And therefore, I know a line didn't make me do this, ask for variance because we added a perimeter railing around the system, but we were reducing the bulk area. So they look favorable on that. What we will also be doing is we'll be bringing the house up to full compliant building codes. Insulation will all be, brought up to compliant. All of our framing, all of our egress, which currently does not exist. So life safety and everything else will be brought up to date. One of the other things that was mentioned to me was the Bilco, which we're going to try to be approved, that's shown here in this drawing, would be a flat surface, which would only be 6 inches projecting above the grade. And they want to do a flat terraced area out there. And they do make some types of Bilcos that are flat that you can put right over the foundation for the Bilco hatch. So that's what they're proposing to do. And that's it architecturally. We are adding a side entry, which will become kind of a front door type of thing. So the orientation of the home would be more or less sideways on the property, but it would further enhance the gambrel style colonial.
So let me just review a few things. So what Craig was talking about is the bottom left elevation here, and this is all part of the conforming addition, so to speak. It's really this other side where we're seeking the relief from, because this corner here, 10 foot by 5 feet, is what we're basically asking the variance for. So again, as he discussed, the goal was to make this kind of a full gambrel style all the way back without breaking up the facade, which would be required if we didn't get the variance. Unfortunately here, they do have a shed on the property, but the shed complies because it's 200 feet, so there's no opportunity to reduce nonconformities with the shed. The proposed Bilco, which Craig was also just talking about, is located within the setback. Currently, we would not need a variance for this if the Bilco was less than 6 inches above grade. So if this made the ZBA feel better about their approval, I think we'd be willing to have a condition that the Bilco not exceed 6 inches above existing grade. And then you have less structure so-called within the setback that we're seeking a variance. It's really just a 5 foot by 10 foot part of the addition that, you know, we'd be asking for relief from. Again, from a hardship perspective, we've kind of talked about it, but I just want to, we have the major limiting factor here is the implementation of obviously the regulations. This house was built much before zoning, one of the first houses in Cornfield Point, and the location of the septic system really limits. This addition can't be expanded back any further to the rear. We can't take that 50 square feet and put it somewhere else. Even though we're entitled to additional space under coverage, there's really nowhere else to do it. That's why we believe, you know, the ZBA can grant the variance to allow for the addition as proposed.
I got a question. And just on the drawing, when I look at the proposed addition and I look at the drawing, I see a shower and I see the Bilco and I see a door.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming since they're not on the on the survey.
So the Bilco is.
Yeah, the Bilco is, but the others aren't, even though I know they're within the buildable envelope.
Yeah.
That's all the enclosure is a fence. The fence-
Well, no, I know, I'm just trying to
Don't even
understand what was,
need a
yeah,
building permit.
exactly, there's no coverage on the top, I was just trying to understand why the drawing wasn't there, because, and the door wasn't shown, but it's okay. And if I'm correct, if we look at this drawing, under the slashed area, the enclosed porch and the shower were already impeding over into the setback area.
Correct.
So the ask is, we're basically asking for, I don't know what the dimensions are, was it like?
It's probably 3.5 feet, more.
So it's right, but that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
Because it already does, I want everyone to understand, it already was going out to that part, right?
You know,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if you took, as you're saying, most of this is by right anyway.
Exactly,
So the little, if you took that 10, without that, it doesn't work. The 10 by 24 to make it compliant on what I'm gonna call the west side of the house. You're gonna go into partially into the driveway. It's just not gonna fit.
no.
You're gonna be out to the leaching fields. They
Yeah.
bought this out.
Right.
In a very nice way. You can't even see it from the street.
No, I understand, and they've already put a code compliant septic system in, the new septic system, which if we try to relocate anything now, we're within so many feet of the septic system, which causes another whole set of problems. And we're not asking them to redo the septic system, which is unreasonable. Do we have any other questions of the applicant? None? Okay, based
Online?
well, no, this is us. Any other questions of the applicant? If hearing no other questions, I'd like to open it to public comment. Is there anybody in the room which would like to speak for or against this project? Speak now, state your name and where you live, and come on up.
Maureen Rogers, RODGERS, 11 Uncas Road. First of all, I fully support the plans that have been presented by the Levines. It's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I do have to mention that over the past 25 years, the property has been used for year-round rentals. I say used, I should say abused. You can check police records. They've been called out many times. What the Levines are proposing is something family-oriented, something that they can leave for future generations. And I know I can only speak for myself, but I know other neighbors support the project.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against this application? Hearing none.
Wait,
1 second.
Doris,
Yeah.
Doris,
Unmute.
Doris, you can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Doris.
Oh, okay.
State
I'm
your-
sorry. No, you can
State-
tell I'm not used to it. Anyway, my name is Doris Davitt. I live at 10 Uncas Road, right next door, and I fully approve this project. It will make such a difference. It would really be wonderful to have. So I support it 100%. And I agree with Maureen that it has been rented for so long, and it'd be wonderful to have permanent residents here, or permanent company, permanent folks.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Thank you. I would also just like to state that I don't believe we need to read in the DEP letter because it was favorable for this application, but you do have a copy for the records. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other applicants, any other individuals for or against this application? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close public comment and open it to discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we've heard a great plan. And if you'd like to go right to motion.
I'd like to go with the motion.
Can I second that, please? I think it's a great plan, and I think they've done a really good job.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 22/23-24C. It's a absolutely well thought out plan that I think it took the neighborhood and the history of the neighborhood into consideration. There's basically nowhere else you can put this. It's a very modest addition.
Right.
If you did put it in their building envelope, you've got the problem of the driveway and you have the problem with the leach fields. Regarding the Bilco door, it's going to lead to a utility room. Why would we not approve that? It's a safe access for oil tank and whatever else might be down there. Like was stated, this was built long before zoning. The depth of the house is shocking that it's as small as it is, but that's what it was. That's what it is now anyway. It's reducing bulk, it increases safety, full compliant with the building codes, well thought out.
And it's in harmony with the neighborhood.
In harmony with the neighborhood and the plan. Can't say enough good about it. So that's my motion.
I will second that.
I'd just like to say, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay? It passes 5-0. And I'd just like to state that it's a very, very nicely done. Thank you very much.
To move the addition into the building envelope.
One thing, the motion to approve the CAM.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the CAM. Second. All those in favor? Aye. CAM approved.
Chubb seconded.
Yes, Chubb second. Okay, please. Okay, I'd like to, excuse me, we're still in session. Sorry. Regards to new business, I have none. The minutes, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I move that we approve them as submitted.
I second that. All those in favor? Aye. Correspondence and announcements, do we have any? Committee representatives and staffing reports, none. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Could I get a second? All those in favor? Aye. Very well done.